Hi, my name is Dev. I'm a man, a husband, and a father of 3. I've also been sober for over a decade. In my younger years, I was incarcerated on several occasions. Now I've made a conscious decision to focus my energy on finding balance, as well as encouraging others' self-growth. Ultimately, I would like to discover my life's purpose and share this process of discovery with others.
Hey guys, my name is Doug, and I live in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. I'm originally from Montreal, Quebec, Canada, but have lived in Calgary for about 15 years. I've struggled with drug addiction for the better part of 20 years, but I would like nothing more than for the next years of my life to be about bringing a voice to some of the issues that plague our world today. By bringing my own struggles to light, as well as encouraging the same sort of vulnerability in others, I would like to brainstorm potential solutions. It is only by owning our experiences and sharing them that common ground and understanding can be found.
Hey guys, welcome to Brainporn. Today we're going to be talking about ayahuasca and DMT and how it's sort of affected and changed our lives. Well, my life pretty significantly, and I don't know about you, Doug.
Yeah, I would say my life has changed significantly. My life before ayahuasca, I think, was kind of like in and out of recovery centers, off and on drugs, just doing stuff that was harming me, and I just felt like I didn't really have a way out. And luckily enough, I had the opportunity to travel to Peru to experience ayahuasca. If I could say that one thing has happened to me for the greater is that my mind is open to a different place than it was before.
Yeah, it's really interesting how it's affected me as well. Because I was sober for quite a while beforehand, and now it's really solidified it in my mind that is part of my life and where I do need to be. And it's crazy. It was just like the voice, because when I was in there, and if you've ever done DMT or ayahuasca, you know what it means to be in there. And she spoke to me, or whatever it spoke to me. Mother ayahuasca spoke to me, and it just kept reminding me, like, I am exactly where I need to be in that moment. And that kind of opened up my eyes, because I'm part of the system, right? And I am trying to live my life, and I got kids, and I got stuff to do, and I got to be here, and I got to be there, and it really slowed me down, and it made me realize, like, it's okay, man. You're here. You got this life. Like, this is it. So just enjoy it, I guess, and don't take things for granted, and just be the person who you want to be and live the life that you want to live. And it's awesome. It was really, because I couldn't grasp it before. I was always so super stressed and high strung, and I still sort of am. Don't get me wrong, some things just never die. But yeah, it gave me that little bit of extra FNUF. Dion. It gave me that little extra Dion FNUF, you know what I mean?
I wonder if FNUF has done DMT.
Dion. I think is he still in Calgary? I don't know.
I don't think so. No, he's in Toronto.
Oh, well, let's go to Toronto.
Let's go to Toronto and ask him.
Yeah, let's call
Hey,
him.
Dion.
Have you ever done DMT?
Have you smoked DMT or drank ayahuasca?
Yeah, tell me about ayahuasca, dude. Like, what's that like? I want to know.
It's kind of a weird experience. I think everything that happened leading up to drinking ayahuasca was part of the journey, like getting to Peru, being in Peru for a couple of days, then going to the city that I was in, Pucallpa, and then traveling from there to the jungle, being away from my cell phone, being away from TVs, being away from my regular routine, which really wasn't much of a routine, to be honest.
No.
So being away from all that was, I think, part of it. But then I sometimes say to myself, is it the meditation that I've been doing? Is it maybe it's all of that and not ayahuasca? And then I'm like, oh, no. So I'll give you a good example. Yesterday, I went home to my mom's, and I was kind of saying to her, like, hey, this has been going on and this has been going on. And she's like, yeah, something's different in you. Even we've all noticed it. And I'm like, So when I pay attention to it and when I really think about what's different, yes, there's a shift in maybe my consciousness, but there's also something that's really important, is that I'm happy.
Yeah.
right?
I feel like Mother Ayahuasca like takes away a lot of like stress and anxiety and pain.
Yeah.
And just kind of puts it all into perspective.
I don't think there really is much difference between smoking DMT and drinking ayahuasca. Ayahuasca lasts a lot longer. Some people say that maybe it's a little bit more powerful. I don't know about that. I think it's the exact kind of same thing with a shorter period of time. So DMT is like, let's say 10 minutes. So you learn 10 minutes of stuff. An ayahuasca ceremony is like, okay, so for the first hour, you don't feel anything. And then maybe about an hour, hour and a half in, you start to feel stuff. And then you go through the feeling of the drug. But then you've got like 4 hours at the end of like the intense peak of the high, where you're just kind of lying on your mat thinking about life. So it's basically, it's like dedicating 8 hours, a chunk of time, to yourself. And in there, you're learning tons about yourself. You're getting messages like, man, I don't want to describe the stuff that I've learned because I kind of think like, oh man, that's going to alter somebody else's experience. Going in with a blank mind, I think is...
It's super interesting because I find that when I try to explain my experience, my trip or whatever, right? My experience, I can't, because you can't really put words behind it. It's so unfathomable that I can't even grasp it. Like thinking about it, there's parts of it that I know that I've forgotten. There's colors and shapes and schemes that don't exist in this world. It just baffles my mind still, right? When people say, oh, it takes you to... I've had somebody told me that it takes you to the 13th dimension, and it absolutely does. It takes you to the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, all of them. It takes you to all dimensions all at once and smashes you right in your rectum. It's really incredible. Like, it's out of this world. Anyways, one of my main struggles with this is because I was part of AA, NA for a number of years, and my hugest struggle that I still sort of battle with today is it a drug? And I found it interesting that you called it a drug. So my first initial experience was stressful almost, because I felt as though I was relapsing, and it was a bother for me because I was sober for, a decade or over 10 years at the time. And it was like, am I throwing it all to the wind? I think Mother Ayahuasca sort of took some of that pain and stress away from me. And it was just kind of like, it's not really a drug. Because it's not really a drug. Like, in my opinion, it's not a drug. It's not a drug in the sense of, I'm not going to go do it every day. I don't want to. I don't even think I could go without ever doing it again, because I feel like it gave me everything that I need to know for when I need to know it. And if I do need to learn more, then I'll know. I'll be in the same place. I'll be confused and stressed out and restricted and whatnot. So yeah, I feel like there's lots of people who don't understand, hey, it's not really a drug. It may be, I guess, illegal, but it's not something you're not going to go smoke it and then go to a business meeting, or you're not going to smoke it and drive, because you won't be able to drive. Like, you're asleep.
Yeah.
Right?
It's funny. I want to talk about something. When I look at the life that I've lived and the 20-year drug addiction, the situations I found myself in, the amount of treatment centers that I've been to from the age of 19, I think it's somewhere around 20 times in treatment. 20 times in treatment. Some of those treatment centers were the same treatment centers, repeated. But 20 years of trying to, I would say maybe more like 17 years. 17 years of trying to figure out and navigate a drug addiction fucking blows. Okay? Yeah. And I've tried so many different things. I've tried counseling, I've tried hypnotism, I've tried all sorts of different things in order to try to solve my problem. I've heard about ayahuasca I've known about it for a few years, but I could never afford to travel to Peru and to go do it. Right?
Well, the average guy can't, right? Especially if you're struggling with addiction. Like, there's no way.
Yeah, your money's all going to dope and stupid shit. So yeah, I mean, there's a money thing there. But when I kind of look back at where I was and where I am today and see the shift, I don't really give it too much thought. I don't spend a lot of time thinking about, how grateful I am that I'm here. I'm just here now. It's just like, I'm here now. I'm in a different spot. I was there, now I'm here. I noticed when I was doing ayahuasca is that in 6 ceremonies, it didn't tell me once about my drug addiction. It didn't focus on my drug addiction. It didn't focus on anything around addiction, which made me think, is there something deeper here that I'm not really, getting, which is I choose addiction. So if I go and use drugs, I'm choosing that, right? I think sort of, but the one thing I wanted to talk about was there's a culture of people who do ayahuasca, and I think it maybe is a little bit trendy. So people are doing it in order to, I've heard of stories of like businessmen getting together and all four of them going down and doing ayahuasca when their life is pretty okay. So why are they doing ayahuasca? I look at it like this. I don't care who you are or why you do it. Just do it. Because I really truly think that we live in a society that is terrified of these drugs coming to our country, right?
Absolutely.
It's gonna solve problems, and I think maybe there's something bigger that's going on that I don't really know about.
I totally agree. Especially like when I first came out of my experience, for the next couple of days, I was kind of like shell shocked, I guess. Like I was like, why are people not doing this? Like everybody needs to experience this.
Oh yeah.
Because it really does change your perspective.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
On everything, and who knows? That's probably the reason why it is illegal.
Yeah.
Like, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah. I already have some serious questions for our government and for governments of the world. Like, I'm, a little paranoid, I guess.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
But where does that come from? Like, it comes from somewhere.
Totally.
So let's not beat around the bush and bullshit. Like,
yeah.
Our government's crooked as fuck.
And I think too of like somebody, I know for myself, like I can think of a bunch of reasons why I continued staying in the cycle of drug addiction, right? I can think of reasons. Mm-hmm. One of them was guilt, one of them was shame, staying stuck in that place. Mm-hmm. But what if I said, my experience is this, I had a drug problem and I often stayed stuck in the guilt and the shame from the things that I had done in the past. And then that kind of pushed me into relapse and pushed me into further crazy drug, escapades or whatever. But ayahuasca, I believe, or DMT or whatever you want to call it, has the opportunity to give you that forgiveness that you've never had. So it's like you don't sweat the small stuff anymore. The stuff that you used to stress about no longer is a stress. So it's like all that weight that you were feeling before, it's gone, man. It's gone.
It's pretty incredible. But I also get why people do go back for more than one ceremony.
Oh, for sure.
Or more than one, kick at the can or
there's
whatever.
A lot to learn.
Because, well, yeah, there's a ton to learn, but also like life gets you down. Like you're constantly It's not like once you do DMT or ayahuasca that's it.
Yeah.
Like I don't have to go to work anymore.
Yeah.
My kids are grown. I don't have to pay any bills. Like my mortgage is okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's all that shit is still there. So and then it slowly starts to kind of bring you back a little bit, but I think the underlying knowledge and the open-mindedness stays.
Yeah.
So it's really unique experience.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it still blows my fucking mind, man.
I honestly, like, part of me thinks like I want to like shout from the rooftops ayahuasca. I want to go to different places in the city where people are struggling, like maybe down underneath the bridge downtown near the drop-in center or any of these places, and I want to tell people, hey, have you heard of ayahuasca? This is what it is. Let me help you fucking get there. Because I just think as long as we continuously put our money into treatment centers and harm reduction facilities, and I think they're all fantastic. They all serve a purpose. But I think there's a missing population of people who aren't getting help. They kind of feel like they're still stuck in this cycle of addiction, and I think ayahuasca could be the answer for a lot of people. I really do.
But I really don't want to take anything away from the AA, NA, any of those programs, the 12-step programs. I don't want to take anything away from them because they really have kept myself, and other people that I know like sober and clean and serene for a number of years. And some people, like I understand the program. It's crazy, and I understand the stress around the program too because it's time based and it's this and it's that, right? And I get it, and it's called a program because you are reprogramming yourself. Mm-hmm. But I think a larger part of the program is the spirituality, right? And I think that might be what's missing in some people, and
They just can't find that spirituality piece.
yeah, and I feel like the DMT really, it lets you fucking know.
Oh
man.
yeah,
Like,
there's something going on.
Yeah, there's something else there.
And I'm okay with being. I don't need certainty when it comes to God. I don't need certainty when it comes to spirituality. I just needed a shift in my thinking, and so my thinking pre-ayahuasca was often very self-centered. It was often very shameful. I was often filled with guilt. The way I looked at myself pre-ayahuasca was very different from the way I look at myself today, because the way I look at myself today is I don't give a fuck about much, man. Seriously, I don't give a fuck about much. I don't anymore. But pre-ayahuasca, I gave a fuck about everything, man. Is he mad at me? Is she mad at me? Did I do something wrong? Oh, I don't want to go to work tomorrow, man. I don't want to face those people. Man, anxiety and being in fucking public places and everything, man. Everything stressed me out. Now I could give a fuck about much.
I feel like a huge part of that, though, is you're not doing shameful things, right? Because that part of you, you know, where you get trapped in that cycle, it's like, okay, well, I did something fucked up. Now I have to make this amend, and now I'm gonna do something more fucked up. Because
I'm gonna do more fucked up shit. I can guarantee you that. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna look at it differently, and I think owning it. Like, okay, I'll give you an example. Okay, there's this. Was it you that was telling me about this? No, somebody else. This creepy dude. Okay, he's like a player, womanizer. He's always with different women. That's his thing. He can't sit down. He's always on the go, meeting new women. But he owns it, and he says he's a dirt dog, you know, or a dirt bag. You know what I mean? He owns the fact that he's a dirt bag. He says, "Hey, listen, I'm sleeping with multiple women all the time," but he owns it, and that's him.
And they probably know it too, so it's not like a huge. And I think that's the biggest part around like that whole sleeping around and people getting hurt is the deception. You know, when you can walk into something and say, "Hey, like, I want to fuck you," or whatever, you know, however.
There's no dishonesty.
Yeah, and it's like, hey, and two grown people feel the same, then it's not like an R. Kelly type situation. Like, this is where two grown-ups can say, yeah, like, let's do it. Like, I've had that. Like, I've had mutually beneficial relationships where it's strictly based on sex. Yeah. And whatever, it was what it was. Now I'm married, and I love my wife. So I don't think about any of that sort of stuff ever anymore. Yeah. Ever. Right? But you know, I think that's a huge part of it is the dishonesty, and I think that now that we've experienced these sorts of things, like lots of the dishonesty, like I feel like if I have to miss work or something like that, and it's just because I fucking don't want to go, like I want to take a mental health day, right? I'll let the people who need to know, like, hey, I'm not coming in, and I don't really give an explanation, like I just won't be there. Yeah. And it's none of your fucking business why. Yeah. You know, like, because what do people say to that? You can't say anything to it. Yeah. And I feel like one of the first people that I met in the program told me that same thing. He said, if you're ever going to take a day off, you tell them that you need to take a day off. You don't ask to take a day off. And I feel like he was more naturally accepting of spirituality than I was, because I struggled and I fought with it. And now, like, I fucking saw it. So you can't really argue with something that you saw with your own third eye. You know what I mean? You can't. Yeah,
the beginning of my life when it came to spirituality was kind of uncertainty. Then it became kind of like, okay, I'll buy into this because maybe it'll help my drug addiction. Then it was like, oh, I still relapsed, even though I was praying to God every morning. So that can't be. So then I became, I would say, somebody that wanted to prove to others that there was no God. Then I moved through that and became more open-minded to, I shouldn't push my opinions on anybody else. Therefore, I'm okay with just not knowing what's out there. After ayahuasca, it's like, I'm pretty sure there's something, but I'm not going to stress about it. I'm just going to roll with it. And again, like you said, I might have to do ayahuasca again. Maybe in a year I'll realize, hey man, things seem to be a little bit off. I'm back looking at my phone all the time again. I'm not as aware of my surroundings. I'm not as engaged with people in conversation. So maybe that's how I'll notice, hey, I need to do ayahuasca again. But like now, I don't need to do it again. I don't need to. But I definitely want to tell other people about it. And I honestly, when I was in Peru doing ayahuasca, there was a certain person that I met a few times, like different people that I met who have this kind of like, you have to respect the medicine, and not anybody should do this medicine, and there's kind of like all these rules around it, and I think that's what fucks up medicine. Yeah, we respect it, all right? I respect it. Mm-hmm. But I didn't do exactly what they told me to do, and I definitely didn't follow the diet after I left there, and I didn't do exactly what they told me to do, and I'm okay.
That's the funny thing about law. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, don't speed. Yeah. Right? But I don't know, sometimes you gotta fucking speed it. And sometimes you won't get pulled over, and sometimes you won't get punished, and like whatever. Sure, it's probably best not to speed, but it's probably best not to fucking do a lot of things.
Totally.
Right?
Exactly.
But in certain cases, like,
I think every person in this world deserves to know what ayahuasca is, deserves to know what it's done for others, and deserves to know it. Some people feel like they don't really get much from it. But man, I've tried how many different therapies, how many different options. And this is the one that seems to kind of have been lifting me up the most. There's been times in my life when I've been in recovery and been in treatment where I felt quite good, but it's quite different than how I feel today. So, I don't know, man. Life is fucking weird, dude. It really is.
I feel like we really can't limit ourselves to our current lifestyles. There's so much more out there, and I think what really opened my eyes up to that was when I first started traveling. When I got cleaned up and I was sober for a while, and I started taking care of my responsibilities again, and I was childless, and I could afford to do stuff, right? And I got a passport, and I was like, I set a trip with my good friend, and hopefully we can have him on the show one time. What's up, Homage? And we took a trip, and we kind of planned it out. We went to South Africa, and it just really opened my eyes that there's so much more to this world than Calgary or than Canada.
Living in your little bubble.
Yeah, like my bubble, and it's just incredible, and I feel like
you stepped outside of your safety bubble to take a little risk, which to some people isn't a big deal. Going on a trip, it's like whatever, but to
I
some
had never
people,
done it before. Like
it's freaky.
I was incarcerated like a couple years before that. You know what I mean? So it was like,
yeah, traveling's a little freaky.
Yeah, it was like, what the fuck? I didn't know if I got my passport. At first, I was like, holy shit, they gave me a passport. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm gonna run with this. Yeah. And then I was thinking, fuck, what if they stop me at the border? And then I shelled out all this money because it's not cheap. Yeah. You know what I mean? Then what the fuck?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And what if I get locked up in South Africa? I don't want to do time in a South African prison ever. You know what I mean? Like, or any prison for that matter. But they're like,
yeah,
that's one of those places that you probably don't want to go.
Yeah.
So, anyways, there was a lot of stress around that, but I made it in, and I had the fucking time of my life, and I met some really beautiful people and some wonderful souls. And Africa is somewhere. Maybe it's because it was my first trip, but it will always hold a certain place in my heart. And travel, ayahuasca, these things for me were what really gave me the confidence and security to live my life now to the fullest.
Yeah.
Like, really, without fear and insecurity and shame.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know much about the rest of the world, but I know that where we live, there's a lot of people that struggle with mental health issues, drug addiction. I mean, I think no matter what situation your life is in, everybody has struggle. No matter, if you're born in a rich family, you got your own kind of struggles. You're born in a poor family, you got your own kind of struggles. Middle class, your own kind of struggles. So I think we all have struggle, and some people are really good at knowing how to deal with their struggle, and some people aren't really good. And I was always one of those people that really didn't know how to handle situations that were difficult. And instead of finding the positive and learning from it and moving and growing and growing my brain, basically, I would do the opposite. I would hide in drugs or hide in sex or hide in porn or hide in whatever, right? And I think that I need to broaden my horizons when it comes to everything in life and live a really good lifestyle balance. So, doing the best I can to eat healthy, doing the best I can to meditate and watch my thoughts and relax, doing my best to treat people with kindness, doing my best to work hard, doing my best to, this balance, right? Doing a podcast with my friend, right? All these different things, right? So I think it's about balance, But I think it's easy for me to say post ayahuasca. But for somebody who hasn't done DMT or ayahuasca, it would be impossible for them to be like, okay, well, I just need healthy balance. And it's like, how do you get to that?
You can't grasp it. Like, you really, you have no, there's no perspective. But then again, who am I to say? That's just from my point of view. Like, somebody else, like some Buddhist monks who are meditating day in and day out,
Totally.
have a totally different perspective on life, on spirituality than I ever could conceive.
Yeah.
Right? So it's interesting. And I think that over the next coming episodes, I really feel like we should look into more of this.
Yeah. I think this whole podcast is about learning together. Maybe taking some calls and getting some other people's opinions about what their trauma was like. We don't want details about, unless you're willing to give those details. But I think, having people discuss their trauma, tell us what they've been through, and then maybe brainstorm some of the solutions that are out there that maybe we haven't looked at. I mean, there's tons. There's Reiki. There's tons of plant medicine. There's tons of therapies. There's tons of different things that we can do for ourselves to better ourselves. But I think often we don't see them.
Absolutely.
So we're starting that discussion. We're gonna start that discussion.
Let's open it up. Let's do this. Like, let's as a group, let's talk about this.
Yeah.
Let's make this a reality for more people, and let's try and make this world a better place.
Yeah. Yeah. What were your experiences like before ayahuasca or after, or what's it like now knowing that there is treatment out there that you haven't heard of? Maybe some barriers too for people that struggle with life. Like, what are the barriers? Like money, maybe that's why you've never experienced ayahuasca. Maybe
people have different traumas. Like, let's look at all of it. Like, you can get at us at Brainporn Podcast at google.com or at Gmail rather. And you can get us on Instagram at Brainporn. Yeah, just look up Brainporn.
Just look up Brainporn. But don't spell it like brain porn.
Spell it, brain, and then P9RN.
Yeah.
That's us.
P9RN.
Pern.
Awesome.
It's been great chatting with you guys, and I hope to hear more.
Yeah. Peace out.